my music-loving friends, and welcome to another episode of the Tuesday Podcast, where we uncover the real stories behind the legends of music you love, or like me in this instance, grew up listening to. I'm your host, Michael Bazin of Second Round Music, and today we're going to hop on that freight train and take a ride on the rails of South Carolina on our way to Spartanburg, trace the roots of a band that defied genre lines. They helped redefine Southern rock, and they're one of my favorites, the Marshall Tucker Band. We'll look at the band's unusual formation, the story behind their name, and the way they fused country, jazz, blues, and jam band sensibilities into something that nobody else was doing in the 70s. In the second half of the show, I'll break down the full history and recording process behind two of their most iconic songs, Can't You See and Heard It in a Love Song. So let's climb aboard that southbound freight train and ride it all the way to Georgia. Now, in the late 1960s and early 70s, Spartanburg, South Carolina wasn't exactly a music hotspot. But tucked into that small town was a group of players with big ideas. Brothers Toy and Tommy Caldwell grew up steeped in music. They both learned to play their respective instruments in their teen years. Now, this is where Toy crafted and developed his unique thumb-picking style instead of using a pick to play his lead guitar. Toy also served in the Vietnam War as a Marine and returned back home with a deep sense of purpose and a bluesy, jazz-influenced guitar style that stood apart from the shredders of the day. He could also play the pedal steel guitar with the speed of a country picker, but the soul of a blues man. Now, all of the original members of the band had played in various bands in the 60s, but in 1966, Toy's old high school buddies, Doug Gray, who had been a member of a band called the New Generation, George McCorkle, Jerry Eubanks, and Franklin Wilkie, came together with his brother Tommy to form a band called the Toy Factory. Now, after Toy, Doug, and George returned from their various military duties in the Vietnam War, they reconvened and settled on Tommy being the bassist, adding drummer Paul Riddle, and exiting would be Franklin Wilkie, who would return later in the 80s. Now, the new lineup would consist of Toy Caldwell on lead guitar and being the band's primary songwriter, Doug Gray, the lead vocals, George McCorkle, a rhythm guitarist, Paul Riddle being a jazz-influenced drummer, and Jerry Eubanks, a saxophonist and a flutist, a rarity in Southern rock, no doubt. As I mentioned earlier, they had all jammed in various bands earlier, but in 1972, all the pieces fell into place. Now let's look at one of the greatest misnomers in rock history. Because you may be asking yourself, well, where's Marshall Tucker and who is he? Marshall Tucker was not in the band. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even a musician. You see, the guys found a rehearsal space in an old warehouse. And when they got the keys to the place, the name Marshall Tucker was engraved on the tag for those keys. Turns out, Marshall Tucker was a blind piano tuner who had rented the space previously. Now, no one in the band knew him personally, but they liked how the name sounded, southern, mysterious, and musical. Thus, the Marshall Tucker Band was born. Now, they began playing live around the South, and they quickly gained a following. Their fusion of genres made them hard to categorize. They weren't as rowdy as, say, Leonard Skinner, nor as bluesy as the Allman Brothers. But they did groove, they did jam, and they meant what they played. So how did they get their big break? Well, the story is that Wet Willie, who is actually a Southern rock band and was at that time, their front man, Jimmy Hall, encouraged Toy to book their band at a place called Grant's Lounge in Macon, Georgia, which he did. Now, during this performance, they caught the attention of Phil Walden, the founder of Capricorn Records in Macon, Georgia. Now, that was the home of the Allman Brothers Band also. So in 1973, the Marshall Tucker Band was signed, and they went into the studio to record their self-titled debut. They would go on to record 6 albums at Capricorn, but the late 70s proved to be devastating for the record label, and they closed up shop, and the band would go on to record their next 6 albums with Warner Brothers Records. Like many great rock bands, their story has their own share of heartbreak. The most devastating came in 1980 when bassist and co-founder Tommy Caldwell died in a car accident. And just a month after his death, him and Toy's brother, Tim, was also killed in a car accident. Now, the band tried to carry on, and they did for several years, and they actually have continued on. But the original magic had begun to fade. Still, the music they made in the golden 1970s run remains timeless. But the Marshall Tucker Band's story isn't over yet. Founding member Toy Caldwell, George McCorkle, and Paul Riddle, and replacement bassist Franklin Wilkie would exit the band during 1984 for various reasons and during different times of the year, but this band still marches on. Now, over the last 53 years, this band has gone through many lineup changes, having 27 different members. But although they haven't recorded a studio album since 2007, and their last live album was actually in 2019, they still tour, playing somewhere between 150 and 200 dates a year, as a matter of fact. With a check of their website, they have current dates spanning the nation that started this past Saturday night, July the 12th in North Carolina, and run through December 13th in Oxford, Alabama. Now, the only original founding member is Doug Gray, and he's had some health issues just recently, but what would you expect at the age of 77? So they have had to cancel some dates, but they still keep riding that freight train. And speaking of freight trains, on the other side of this break, we're going to get into those 2 unforgettable tracks. So stay tuned.
Are you ready to take control of your finances and build a brighter future? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired, feeling broke all the time? My name is Michael Pazent, a certified master coach, and I created Second Round Financial to provide personalized financial coaching based on the proven principles of Dave Ramsey's 7 Baby Steps. Our services include, but are not limited to, one-on-one financial coaching through Zoom conference or face-to-face, budgeting strategies, debt reduction plans, emergency fund creation, retirement planning, and investment guidance. Well, why choose us? Because we believe in empowering our clients with the knowledge and tools they need to achieve financial peace. With our guidance, you'll gain clarity over your financial situation, develop a realistic and achievable plan, and experience hope and confidence in your financial future. I have over 15 years experience teaching and guiding families in the Ramsey principles, along with a degree in finance and work experience in the banking and insurance industries. So let's get started today. Go to secondroundfinancial.com and click Book Now to schedule your free consultation today.
Welcome back. Now, Can't You See is arguably the song that defines their entire legacy. And it was Toy Caldwell who wrote it, both the music and the lyrics. Toy had recently returned from Vietnam, and many fans and critics alike had speculated that the song's deep ache and its desperation to get away was reflective of his post-war trauma. Now, he never explicitly said that, but listen to the opening line. Gonna take a freight train down at the station. Goes on to say he doesn't care where it goes, just get him away. Now, that's not just a breakup song, it's a departure, and a spiritual one at that. Now, the band recorded this track at Capricorn Studios, which was part of Capricorn Records, in Macon, Georgia, in 1973. Now, the studio was famous for its live and unpolished sound, and it was perfect for a band like this. They didn't need overdubs or studio tricks or anything like that. Now, Doug Gray was originally supposed to sing lead on it. I mean, he was the band's front man after all. But Toy's demo version had such a rawness and sincerity that they decided to let Toy sing lead instead. That gravelly voice, totally untrained, but absolutely authentic. This is one of the things that makes this song so special, is that you can feel the pain in Toy's voice. And that came that the famous flute intro, Jerry Eubanks had just happened to be fooling around on the track, and it wasn't actually written into the song. Now, he riffed it during the entire tape, and the band knew instantly that it was the vibe that they needed. That lonely crying flute became the song's signature. Now, the band cut the song live in just a few takes. No frills, just the truth. Now, it didn't chart big when it was first released, but it became a Southern rock radio staple. And I can remember back in my old band days, it was a staple on our set list also. And even their live performances, even today, of this song have brought it to legendary status. Now, it was re-released as a live single in 1975, and that version really took off, giving fans a full taste of the band's jam-type instincts. Now, that version would go on to define the song of the generation. Now, obviously, there's two different songs. There's a radio version and this live version. Now, the version that you'll hear me play will be the radio version, since it is just me and an acoustic guitar. But now, since then, it's been featured in over a dozen films, TV shows, and it's been covered by country and rock artists like Hank Jr., Waylon Jennings, even Sheryl Crow, Zach Brown, and Kid Rock did a version of it also. Now let's fast forward now to 1977. The band now has 5 albums, and they've carved out a solid career. Now that year they released Carolina Dreams, a concept album of sorts about life, love, and longing for the South. Now Heard It in a Love Song was the breakout single that they had. Now once again, Tommy Caldwell wrote this track, but this time it was Doug Gray who took lead on the vocals. And this wasn't a song of heartbreak. It was about freedom, the kind that keeps a man from staying too long in one place, even when he wants to. As the song says, I was born a wrangler and a rambler, and I guess I always will. Now, unlike their earlier recordings, Carolina Dreams was recorded with a little more precision. Capricorn had invested in new multi-track gear, and the band was beginning to use it more fully. But they never lost that live feel. And Heard It in a Love Song was recorded mostly live in the studio, but with some minor overdubs. The song starts out with a 12-string guitar riff played by George McCorkle, instantly recognizable. Then Doug's smooth tenor comes in. Now, it's arguably his finest vocal performance on the record. Melodic, full of restraint, but emotionally open. Now, the backing vocals and subtle keys give it a soft radio polish without watering down the Southern flavor. Now, it peaked at 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, making it their biggest chart success and their only top 20 chart hit. Now, critics praised its crossover appeal. It had the lyrical depth of an outlaw country song, but it had the instrumental tightness of jazz rock and the heart of a folk tune. Now, it's a song about not being able to stay even when your heart says maybe you should. And that tension is what makes it resonate, especially among Southern artists who knew that lifestyle all too well.
Hey guys, thank you for listening today, and I hope you're enjoying this podcast. If you are, please subscribe or follow the podcast, click the like button, share it with other music lovers, and please consider giving it a 5-star rating so we can reach a bigger audience. Now back to the show.
Now, what makes Marshall Tucker so special? They weren't just a Southern rock band. They were genre benders, bringing jazz solos, flute interludes, and heartfelt songwriting into a space dominated by the macho swagger and rebel flags. They toured relentlessly, often sharing the bill with the Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, Charlie Daniels, and Wet Willie. But where others chased volume and flash, Marshall Tucker chased the feel. Now, they lost Tommy Caldwell tragically in 1980, and Tommy Caldwell would pass away in 1993. But the music, especially Can't You See and Heard It in a Love Song, continues to ride those Southern rails, from jukeboxes to road trip playlists. Now, remember, I'll be playing these songs on my YouTube channel, but keep in mind, it's just me and an acoustic guitar. So I encourage you to go find a copy of these songs, especially Heard It in a Love Song, and listen to it either through a good quality speaker or, better yet, a good set of headphones that you can really hear the individual instruments. Now you might say, but Michael, you didn't say anything about the band having a piano player. Well, technically they didn't, but on this song, their producer, Paul Hornsby, plays an incredible piano part. Now, as you'll be able to hear, Paul was a very accomplished piano player and does a fabulous job on this recording. The next time you hear that lonesome flute or those warm guitar tones, remember the name, not of a band member, but of a blind tuner from Spartanburg, South Carolina, whose name just happened to be on a key ring, Marshall Tucker. Well, that's it for this episode of the 2 for Tuesday podcast. I'm your host, Michael Present of Second Round Music. Please remember to subscribe or follow this podcast, like it, and share it with all your music-loving friends. Also, feel free to leave your comments. And as always, we love you and we need you. And I'll see you next time as we dive deep into more musical history, one story and 2 songs at a time. God bless you.